If you set your camera to shoot black and white, then what happens is it tends to desaturate the shot in camera, and you get a shot that's something like this. Let me just desaturate the shot in Photoshop, and you can see that we've got a bland wash of grayscale tones. We're losing the shape and texture of the boat. These brighter areas of vegetation are very grey and bland, and nothing's really standing out, when in fact, using the camera raw editor, we can bring out the texture by lightening certain colours in the shot, like the frost here and the colours of the grass, and these really stand out and contrast with the boat and bring out the shape and pattern and form of the boat as well. We've even lightened up the frost going along here just to help bring out the contours of the boat, and I'll show you how to do all of that using the new tools in the Adobe Camera Raw Editor, but we do need to use CS4 because these tools are very specific to the new version. So to do our monochrome conversion in the Adobe Camera Raw Editor, go and open the file CS4 ACR mono-before. It's a digital negative file, so it'll open up quite happily in your Raw Editor. And I'm using Camera Raw 5.3, which has got some new tools like this targeted adjustment tool, which is very handy, and I'll show you how that works later on. But we're going to kick off by making a basic adjustment. Let's look at the tones by looking at the histogram, and we can see that the highlights aren't quite sliding to the far right, so they're not quite as bright as they could be. The image is slightly underexposed. So all I need to do to brighten the highlights is just drag exposure to the right a little bit to around about +40, and you can see the histogram is sliding to the right there. If you can't get the number right with the sliders, then type in the value using the keyboard. And now we've brightened up the highlights. Let's see the before and after by ticking preview. And you can see that the shot just kind of jumps out a little bit more because we've brightened the highlights. Now the first thing we're going to do is add a little bit of drama to the shot by creating a slightly darker sky. You could do that in camera by putting a filter with a graduated tint on it to darken the sky when you take the shot, but it's easier to add it in Photoshop using this new tool, which is the graduated filter tool. When I click on that, this pane changes to graduated filter, and we can then tweak things like exposure or brightness. Let's set everything to 0 to start with, and then let's take exposure down to around about -2.40, so that's nearly 3 stops. That's quite dramatic. Something like that should do the trick. And then what you need to do is drag and hold shift to constrain it to a vertical line, and just drag it down to around about here, and you can see that the graduated tint is now darkening the top of the shot there, and it's lightening towards the top of the mountain. So that's a cool way of creating a gradient filter effect and darkening the sky. You can untick show overlay to see the effect without the distracting interface overlay that was showing up earlier, but I'll turn that back on again for the moment. When you've finished, you can just click on another tool like the zoom tool or the hand tool to go back to the basic editing palette.